50% of all cancers are preventable, and one of the best ways to reduce your risk is by changing the foods you eat every day. There are four major classes of foods that directly feed cancer cells. In this video, I'll show you which of those four classes to avoid and the simple nutritional framework I give my own patients to starve cancer cells, improve immunity, and reduce inflammation. Our modern-day food has one huge problem that directly impacts how cancer grows. For a cancer cell to survive, grow, and spread, it needs four things: fuel, usually in the form of glucose, chronic inflammation, certain growth signals like insulin and IGF-1, and a blood supply, also known as angiogenesis. Many staples of the modern diet support each stage of this process. Most people worry about sugar, red meat, or pesticides, but one of the most harmful categories directly feeding cancer cells hides in foods people think are healthy: ultra-processed emulsifiers. These emulsifiers are added to foods to make them creamier, smoother, and thicker, and you'll find them everywhere: in protein bars, dairy-free milks, ice creams, coffee creamers, gluten-free products, bottled salad dressings, and even some yogurts and high-protein snacks. This matters because two specific emulsifiers, polysorbate 80 and carboxymethylcellulose, CMC, have repeatedly been shown to trigger inflammation, disrupt the gut barrier, and increase tumor formation in animal models. Your gut lining is supposed to be tight, protected, selective, and sealed. These emulsifiers dissolve mucus, the gut's thin protective layer, allowing bacteria and other byproducts to get too close to immune cells. This leads to chronic low-grade inflammation, metabolic changes, and gut microbiome shifts, creating an environment cancer loves. Emulsifiers don't cause cancer directly, but they create the conditions cancer cells thrive in by causing chronic inflammation. If cancer is a spark that causes a fire, emulsifiers help dry out the forest. To reduce your emulsifier exposure, first read food labels and look for these names: polysorbate 80, polysorbate 60, carboxymethylcellulose, cellulose gum, carrageenan, and mono and diglycerides. If you see any of these, put that item back. Second, choose simple alternatives like oat milk or almond milk with only 3 to 5 ingredients. Use heavy cream or half and half instead of artificial creamers. Create homemade vinaigrettes instead of bottled dressings, and choose protein bars with ingredients you can actually pronounce. Tip 3 is the grandma rule. If your grandma wouldn't recognize an ingredient on a food label, your gut probably won't either. This rule alone dramatically lowers inflammation, which is the main engine cancer cells use to grow. The problem with our modern food system is that foods can be contaminated long before they reach your plate. One of the most powerful natural carcinogens we've discovered is a specific mold toxin called aflatoxins. These form when crops are stored in warm, humid conditions, especially when moisture isn't properly controlled. Aflatoxins tend to show up in peanuts, pistachios, almonds, walnuts, corn, and grains, not because these foods are bad, but because they're vulnerable to mold during storage and transportation. It's important to clarify: nuts themselves do not cause cancer. It's contaminated nuts that are the problem. Contamination becomes more likely with imported nut mixes, nuts bought in bulk, nut butters from lower quality suppliers, and grains stored without proper temperature control. Aflatoxins are bad because they damage your DNA directly and overwhelm your liver's detox pathways, which is why long-term exposure increases your risk for liver cancer. The key is exposure, not complete avoidance. This isn't about cutting out nuts entirely, but about choosing nuts that are fresh, clean, and properly stored. Buy from reputable companies that source nuts from dry climates, keep nuts in the fridge or freezer, and try to use them within a month after opening. Roasting nuts can lessen aflatoxin exposure a bit, but doesn't eliminate it completely. Another big problem with our modern diet is how carbohydrate heavy it is. The issue with a lot of carbs, especially all at once, is they are directly turned into sugar. Cancer cells don't just like sugar, they depend on it. This isn't just table sugar, but glucose your body creates from everyday foods like breads, pastas, cereals, pastries, soda, sweetened drinks, fruit juices, and candy. This is tied to the Warburg effect, where cancer cells burn sugar rapidly, even when oxygen is available. Glucose becomes cancer cells' default fuel. Most cells in our body create energy in an orderly way, like stacking Legos neatly. Cancer cells create energy chaotically, stacking Legos out of order, and that only happens when they get sugar. What's more concerning is that sugar doesn't just fuel cancer cells, it increases hormones like insulin and IGF-1, which act like growth accelerators, telling cells to keep stacking the Legos out of order over and over, creating a massive tower the body can't get rid of, a tumor. Some cancer cells, especially breast cancer cells, have been known to have 6 times the amount of insulin receptors compared to regular cells, meaning they are literally programmed to run on this system. A high-sugar diet sends stronger growth signals directly to cancer cells rather than healthy cells. But you don't have to completely eliminate carbohydrates. It's about choosing the right ones that don't fuel cancer cells. Switch out high glycemic carbs for low glycemic ones. White bread for whole grain or sprouted bread, pasta for chickpeas, lentils or quinoa, sugary cereals for oats and berries, and pastries for Greek yogurt and berries. In general, reduce added sugars wherever possible by limiting pastries, cookies, soda, and other sugary drinks like sweet tea and energy drinks. Choose whole food carbohydrates with fiber that are digested slower, like berries, beans, and quinoa. For soda lovers, switch to unsweetened tea, sparkling water, or even diet soda when needed. The bottom line is, you don't have to give up all carbohydrates, just choose the ones that fuel you, not the cancer cells. One of the biggest misconceptions is that moderate drinking is safe. From a cancer standpoint, alcohol is classified as a Group 1 carcinogen, the same category as tobacco and asbestos. This doesn't mean alcohol is equivalent to smoking, but it means there's a clear established link between alcohol intake and cancer. Even small amounts increase the risk for colon, breast, liver, and esophageal cancers. When alcohol is metabolized, it turns into acetaldehyde, a chemical that directly damages DNA, leading to inflammation. Alcohol also interferes with DNA repair, depletes key nutrients like B vitamins, disrupts hormone balance, and acts like a solvent, making other carcinogens more harmful to your tissues. Alcohol doesn't just cause damage, it makes your body more vulnerable to other sources of damage. Even one drink a day has been shown to increase the risk of certain cancers, particularly breast cancer. This isn't about perfection or guilt, but understanding that when it comes to cancer, drinking less is better than drinking more. A simple shift like cutting back from 8 drinks a week to 4 makes a huge difference in your overall cancer risk. If you can't remember everything we talked about, that's fine. I put together all the important points in my anti-cancer food guide, which you can grab for free using the link in the description. The wise heart will acquire knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks it out. This is from Proverbs 18:15. If this video opened your eyes to how common everyday foods can increase your cancer risk, you might want to check out my video on common medications that are quietly increasing your risk of dementia. I highly recommend watching that next.